All right, welcome to day 2 of the Lead Up to Lead trainings. Excited to see everyone and excited to be talking through some issues a little bit more in depth today. Again, my name is Joanna Bird. I'm the Executive Director with the National Association of Social Workers, Pennsylvania chapter. And I want to introduce a few of my colleagues. Angie and Natalie, I know you're on today. They're our lobbying team with the NASW-PA, representing NASW with our legislators. And we also have one of the co-chairs of our legislative team, Kathy Yorkievitz. Good morning, Kathy.
Hello, everybody.
Um, all right, but when we just checking. Oh, and our other legislative chair is on this morning, Katie Morton. So Katie, if you can say hi too.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was off camera, but hi.
Hi. Good to see you. But I do want to start off by at least start today's presentation by introducing our guest speaker. Ashleigh Strange is here with us, representing the Governor's Commission on LGBTQ Affairs, and is going to start off with a brief presentation about what the governor's plans are in relation to mental health care. Thank you, Ashleigh.
Thanks for having me. I'm really glad that I could be here. Like they said, my name's Ashleigh Strange. I use they and them pronouns. So you can either say I'm so glad they are here or I wish they would leave. I live in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Today I'm in Harrisburg. I am like she said, I'm the executive director for the Governor's Advisory Commission on LGBTQ Affairs, also known as the Queer in the Governor's Ear. There are 6 different affinity groups that have commissions under the governor's purview. So there's LGBTQ, Latino, African American, Asian American, Pacific Islander, youth, which is youth 14 to 26, and women. And so we all work together because a lot of our work really overlaps. But this is specifically our positions are a conduit between His Excellency, the Right Honorable Governor Josh Shapiro, and the good people of Pennsylvania. And so we encourage folks to reach out to us, invite us to things, and do all kinds of things. I actually just got back here today from Tioga County, where we held a rural trans town hall. And we were able to there were about 15, 20 folks that showed up in Wellsboro, and my fingers are still cramped from all the notes I was taking. There's so much that's going on, especially in our rural areas. And one of the things that really came up was mental health, healthcare in general, but access to mental health, being able to find a therapist. One person said that she found a good therapist that was LGBTQ affirming, and that therapist had a 3-year wait list. And so, other people couldn't get in. They could find therapists that don't have wait lists near them, but those therapists are more the pray the gay away type of therapist. So one of the things that I let them know was about our work last year, especially with NASW-PA and the Trevor Project and a bunch of other folks. We severely restricted conversion therapy in Pennsylvania. And so all of the medical boards, I'll never be able to list them all off right now. I'm sure somebody can. Is there a smarty pants in here who can list off all the medical boards under the Department of State?
I can't list all of them. My guess for who would be best at that would be our lobbyist, Angie.
The organizations that signed on to that policy were the State Board of Medicine, State Board of Osteopathic Medicine, State Board of Nursing. The board Joanna, that your social workers, marriage, family counselors, licensed counselors, professional counselors, that board as well, and the board of psychology, were those
That
six?
sounds right. That sounds right. So basically, we sat through, I sat through a lot of them virtually. I know that some of you were there in person, but we sat through and each board, board by board said, this is unnecessary, it's cruel, it's destructive. We don't need it in Pennsylvania. It is not a ban. It is not a ban on conversion therapy. That can only happen at the legislative level. So with the legislation or the legislators in the House of Representatives, we have 101 Democrats and 101 Republicans. For those of you who are a little bad at math, that's a tie. And so what we know is that it's going to be rough going to actually make sure that that stuff is passed legislatively, but that doesn't mean we stop. That doesn't mean we stop pushing, that we stop fighting, that we stop uplifting all of the good bills. And so, by doing things, by working with the Department of State and with all these boards and making sure that it gets on the agenda, those are the boring administrative ways that we can make sure that folks are actually covered. To that end, some of you have probably heard some things in the news about a lot of the negative bills that are coming out. To me, every bill is a dream. A legislature has a dream, wants to uplift the community, writes it down and puts it out so that all of their colleagues can agree with them and vote on it. And so there are a lot of really good dreams that are waiting to be fulfilled in Pennsylvania. There are also some nightmares that folks have written down. However, the good bills, the bills that uplift and support the LGBTQ community in Pennsylvania right now far outweigh the bills that are against us. And so even though those are getting a lot of press, you're not hearing the ones about, a full LGBTQ curriculum in schools, mental health support for college students, name change support, the Fairness Act. The news doesn't like to focus on that. And so what we need to do is, as we're calling our legislators, continue to push to make sure that they are supporting bills that uplift our communities and not those which would tear us down or even just seek to eliminate certain parts of our community. But when it comes to mental health, there's a lot of different ways that folks are sort of tackling mental health. But one of them is that the governor has put an additional $100 million into the budget, into his proposed budget this year for mental health for those for those in school. And part of the reason why a lot of this focus is on youth is because it is easier to raise strong youths than it is to repair broken adults. But that doesn't mean that there aren't broken adults out there. Show of hands, broken adults. We're out here. So we need to make sure that it's a constant move to make sure that we are making sure that we are raising strong youth who are mentally and physically strong, and we're also uplifting like adults who might not have gotten that help before. And that's where, that's really where social workers come in. A lot of the work that y'all do, like, it's not just therapy, it's, treating people like people. We don't need a fairness act. We don't need an act of legislation to tell us to treat people fairly. However, we all know someone who could use a little reminder now and again. And so it's up to the folks that are sort of in this space to continue being allies and uplifting folks and getting the care that they need. A lot of with the executive orders that are coming from the federal level, a lot of scary things happening. But I can assure you that all of these executive orders that are coming, and I've been keeping a reluctant eye on them, but all of them are flying directly in the face of the mission, vision, and values of every agency under the governor's purview. And so there are folks, we got the news about the VA yesterday. And so we know that some of you folks might be seeing an uptick in veterans that need care because they're no longer able to be covered by the VA, but we're continuing to monitor it because the DMVA, the Pennsylvania Veterans Affairs, they are going to continue doing the work. Like the Department of State. The Department of State last year or 2 years ago added there are now three gender options for your voter registration. And so if you need to update your gender information on your voter registration, really all you need to do is re-register to vote. PennDOT is continuing to offer the driver's licenses and identification cards with the 3 M, F, and X, the 3 different gender markers. You don't need a doctor's note. All you need is to fill out a single form and pay the price of printing off a new ID. Same thing with the Department of Health and birth certificates. Like, we want to make sure that folks who are getting their names changed and aligning the gender markers on their birth certificates with the gender that they actually are, that those are updated. That being said, we know that it is unsafe at this time for people to try and update their Social Security numbers, update their Social Security cards with the correct gender marker, and also passports and other federal items. But the state is holding firm that we're not going to erase our trans neighbors. And honestly, like, with everything that's happening in the news, folks and their mental health declines rapidly, we encourage folks to touch grass as often as possible, stay hydrated. They can try to come for our clean air and clean water, but guess what? We got an agency that's making sure that that's safe too. I've talked a lot. I want to take the chance to answer any questions or if folks want to let me know what's going on in your lives. I don't know what these meetings are usually like.
That's okay. Thank you so much. Anyway, specifically, like with the budget coming up, in the summer, what is the governor thinking in terms of mental health funding?
So mental health funding, he put $200 million towards mental health funding and let me make sure I got the right numbies for you, because he added an additional $100 million toward youth mental health funding. It's right here. And so he wants I'm reading this verbatim, he wants the General Assembly to send a bill to his desk that closes a loophole that allows insurance companies to deny coverage for mental health services provided to students inside the walls of a school, even if those same services would be covered in a mental health professional's office across the street. And then an additional $111 million for student mental health and school safety grants, ensuring our students continue to have the support they need to stay safe and healthy. So that is what is in the budget right now. And we know that there are places like the Office of the Victim. There are a lot of places that don't necessarily say mental health, but they encompass mental health. The Office of Victim Advocates, if folks are being doxxed or if folks feel unsafe, they have an address confidentiality program, which I'm told is not a witness protection program, but it sounds just as cool. And can y'all still hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the total being budgeted for mental health for all residents, that's when I'm going to have to tally up, because it's $300 million. It's $300 million in this budget for youth.
Mhm.
So for all residents, like that's something that I'm still working. I got number crunchers because I was not hired for my math skills. But that's something that we're still trying to put together. There's also the Behavioral Health Council as well, that is working to put together, lists of different supports and folks for and things for folks. I'm gonna really quick drop this link in. Who's familiar with Linktree? Bang. Okay. So Linktree is basically a bunch of links, so that way we put it in our social media, and if we have to say like, oh, check the link in our bio, there's several links in there. So this is the one for the LGBTQ Commission, and if you go through here, we have several different events and things, but after that we have health resources. So we do have mental health crisis resources. I am working closely with the Department of Human Services on their suicide prevention plan. And we know that telling people that a plan is being made doesn't help them in the immediate. And so as we work on this plan, it's not going to be a 5-year plan. We're going to make it short. We're going to make it achievable so that people can actually see the results of this plan. And so in the meantime, we have a lot of mental health crisis resources. We encourage folks to call 988. That's something that the state continues to push. However, one of the things that I'm doing is as we talk about 988, we're also starting to add disclaimers about the fact that 988 does reserve the right to call the police if they feel that the caller is unsafe. And so for folks who are wary of that, there are some lists of places you can call that do not contact the police. Yes. Do you mean snail mail, Leah? Would you like my...
But yeah, I think probably just your email address will will work.
Okay, I love getting, I do love getting mail. And I will have to write down the address here, but that is, so if you scroll through those links, there should be a lot of support that's there. And if there's something that you don't know about, or something that you might want to be shared, then please let me know. The other thing that exists is PA Navigate. And PA Navigate is sort of a no wrong door kind of a thing that we have with the new pa.gov website. But PA Navigate, specifically if you are looking for something that the government of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has to offer, you'll be able to find it in PA Navigate. And so yeah, we're really pushing for that as well. Let's see. Yes, so that's a good link for folks to follow, Catherine. Is that something that y'all recommend to folks as well?
I haven't been familiar with that one before, but I appreciate Catherine for putting that in the link.
Yeah, some of the things that we also have a subcommittee on health and human services with the LGBTQ Commission. And one of the things that we really want to do is we want to help folks find mental health services near them. And sometimes it takes a little finagling. Like even those of you who are listed on some websites know that those websites are not incredibly easy to use. And some of them, one of my commissioners noted that if you see someone that has every single box checked off, like LGBTQ, like, international, if they have every single box checked off, it's likely that they're not specifically trained on LGBTQ issues. And I'm wondering if anyone can give any insight as to sort of like what some best practices are around that.
I think it is true that if folks list everything as a specialty, then nothing is. But you're just saying that you're open to working with all of those kinds of clients. But yeah, I would say that when it is supposed to be that you're entering in your specialties, that we would recommend folks uh, to to really like limit it to what their areas of specialization is and what they might have received certifications or trainings in. Um,
Yeah, and for example, there's a lot of continuing education that's available. I know that the Keystone Conference is coming up this week. It's where I'll be spending my Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so that is a conference specifically for trans issues in Pennsylvania, but folks come from all over the world. And they come here to Harrisburg, and there's a lot of different continuing education on, how to, how to not just properly market yourself to folks who might be seeking LGBTQ plus affirming care, but also, how to make sure that your office is like an affirming space and things like that.
well, Ashleigh, we appreciate so much your time with us today. Thank you so much for coming and speaking about not only representing your own commission, but the governor's office in general. We really appreciate it.
And we appreciate the opportunity to partner with you because of the work that y'all did even before I got into this job. More people in Pennsylvania are safe and secure, and we thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, our next speaker is Senator Collett, who is with us today. She is the chair, I believe, in the Senate of the Mental Health Coalition, and has sponsored bills related to mental health funding, including one that she's got a co-sponsor memo out for right now. So thank you, Senator Collett.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so grateful that I got to hear Ashleigh's remarks. I came in at the tail end, but I'm so grateful that I had a chance to hear those. I am privileged to sit on the Governor's Advisory Commission for Women, and we work very closely with Ashleigh's commission as well. So I'm grateful to have gotten the opportunity to hear your remarks and your thoughtful responses to people's concerns. So thank you, and I'm grateful to be here as well. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to dive right in, let you know what I've been working on, and then we'll leave a few moments for any questions that you have. Can everyone hear me okay? I don't have a microphone, but I can turn up my great. Thank you. So I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you again for inviting me to speak about how we can improve mental health supports here in our Commonwealth, something that I have really been committed to since first entering office in 2018. So all of us have people in our lives who've dealt with or are still dealing with the impacts of mental health concerns. And whether those experiences are rooted in trauma, genetics, both, we know that a number of adults with mental illness, that number has increased in recent years, and particularly in the wake of the pandemic. So as a nurse, I know firsthand how gaps in mental health care treatment can harm families, can harm patients, and even the healthcare professionals who are doing their very best with the limited resources that they have available to them. And we cannot afford to leave our brothers, our sisters, mothers, fathers, children, friends, neighbors. We cannot afford to leave anyone behind to tackle those challenges alone. And it's really why I was so honored to have been appointed to Pennsylvania's Behavioral Health Commission on Adult Mental Health. That was under the Wolf administration. And so this is something I've been working on for a long time. The sole purpose of that commission was to determine the most impactful and efficient way to use $100 million. That was one-time federal funds that Governor Wolf wanted to invest in adult behavioral health. And we wanted to figure out where they would make the most difference and save the most lives, even though, as all of us here know, $100 million is really a drop in the bucket when it comes to the significant need we have across the Commonwealth. But, for us, it was sort of like, hey, this is a down payment on what we think we can build on. So that was really our hope. And Representative Schlossberg, he and I both introduced legislation that closely mirrored the commission's recommendations That piece of that bill was called Time to Fix Pennsylvania's Broken Mental Health Care. And it really had a lot of components to it. $37 million toward workforce development, $23.5 million to improve the criminal justice system and public safety systems, $39 million to expand access and service delivery, and then $500,000 to really evaluate the overall impact of that appropriation. And again, our goal was to get a report at the end saying we've made some progress, but we need more investment to make even more progress. I am sad to say that unfortunately, after many, many months of meetings, discussions with stakeholders, really trying to get everybody to the table and try to create like a meeting of the minds on this, our colleagues on the Republican side in the Senate just refused to pass the legislation. It came out of the House and came over to the Senate. My bill in the Senate didn't even move. So really, it is our majority Republican Party in the Senate that is refusing to address this issue with really thought out concerns and measures that we really thought could have made an impact. So they refused to allocate those funds. They reallocated that money to another program through the budget process. I'm happy to say the money did go to mental health funding for K through 12. But that need for adult behavioral health is so significant that I really was brokenhearted that that $100 million did not go where we had intended it to go. And really to have the hard work and the thoughtful recommendations of the commission cast aside was devastating for me personally, but for patients, for loved ones, for the organizations that had taken part in those hearings and really tried desperately to craft legislation and recommendations that would be thoughtful. Everyone was really eagerly awaiting the help that was promised by that modest influx of funding, and it just didn't come. So I'm grateful that Governor Shapiro took up the mantle when he took office, and he said, we're not going to just, drop the ball here. I am really fortunate to sit on the Governor's Behavioral Health Commission, and adult mental health services across our Commonwealth are still in crisis. The funds that we wanted to allocate would have gone a long way toward providing some of our stretched thin providers and organizations with some hope that really we were understanding the deficits and we were going to make strides to address them. So I have continued to reintroduce that legislation year over year. I will continue to reintroduce it so that we can keep this conversation going and really to hopefully one day see that critical funding get distributed. I don't have to tell anyone on this call that the need is still there. Even if that initial federal money isn't, the need is, and so we are going to continue to fight to try to get to a place where we're seeing those investments made. So I am going to just make an ask of you, right? You can't come on this call without being asked to do something. Please, please continue to use your voices. Contact your state lawmakers. Let them know why the funding for adult behavioral health is so critical and so important. It's important to you. It's important to the folks that you work with every day. Your stories truly do matter. Please know that when we hear these personal stories, we are able to advocate in a much stronger fashion for these investments. It's important that you tell your stories. And it really is time that Harrisburg deliver for the patients and providers who put our Commonwealth on a path to truly making the lives of all Pennsylvanians better. We thank you. I see that our voices matter. Thank you, Milos. I appreciate seeing that. It is so incredibly important. So I am going to tell you, thank you again for the work you do. Thank you for inviting me here to be a participant in this great work. And I am happy to take any questions that you might have. I also heard at the tail end, I'm sorry, Joanna, I heard at the tail end, Ashleigh talking about the governor's proposed investment for this year's budget. And absolutely, they're right. There are so many different components to that. It is student mental health and physical security, the 988 crisis hotline that we need to support, additional investment in county mental health that block grant funding, expanding discharge and diversion programs for individuals with mental illness in the criminal justice system. How often have we heard that folks enter the criminal justice system with mental health issues and they just get, sort of tossed into an incarceration cycle that does not help them? So the governor has proposed and said, hey, can we allocate money to really try to address that? $5 million to continue funding for walk-in mental health crisis stabilization supports around multiple counties, $5 million to help identify and battle postpartum depression, something I suffered from. Really, this is so important that we continue talking about it, as is everything in the behavioral health sphere, right? $34.2 million toward more waivers to allow people with disabilities, including autism, to receive home and community-based services. And that is so critically important, again, so that the people in our communities continue to remain valued members of our communities, but with the support they need to thrive. We can do it. Please don't let anyone tell you that it is an either or. We can do it, and we will continue to do it. So I'm sorry I talked over you, Johanna. I apologize, but I am here for any questions that you have. Milos, I got it right. Thank you.
Yes. No worries at all. We're happy to hear anything that you have to add. Thank you so much for that summary. And yeah, NASW, we were right there among those advocates that were pushing for that $100 million, including that we had one of our team on the Mental Health Commission, and we have one on the new governor's mental health
Yes.
as well. I could name those folks, but I won't. But I won't for now.
Well, it's so important that we have people sitting on these commissions that have, firsthand experience. I think one of the other things that Governor Shapiro did really well was ensure that someone sitting on the commission, I think there are 2 people appointed actually, who are community members with real world experience. So these are community members that are sitting on this commission telling all of us how it is in real life, in real time. And so it is critical that we understand that, because we can sit all day and say, there should be a guidance counselor in every school. Sure, there should be, but do we have the guidance counselors to do it? No. So what do we need to do to ensure that we do, so that our kids aren't, floundering when they're finding themselves in crisis? So I'm grateful to hear the voices of people who are in it telling us, hey, the thing you're proposing is not going to make it better. Here's what will.
And we appreciate that. We know that, I know we have direct experience from this team of well-intentioned legislators who take initiatives, and then we have to come in after a minute and be like, this isn't actually going to work the way that you have it.
Well, thank you for doing that. Really, it's hard. It's hard to stand up and say, thanks for doing this, but please don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But we can fix it. We can tweak it, make it better.
Sure. Senator Collett, the majority of the folks that are on this call are going to be coming to Harrisburg next Tuesday for our Legislative Education and Advocacy Day, and we'll have the opportunity to talk to their representatives and senators, both Republicans and Democrats. You were just talking about the need to share our stories, and the importance of the need for mental health services and the need for mental health funding. Is there anything specific that you think that they should bring up that's relevant right now in the current session?
Well, I think what's really important is, what you're seeing on the front lines, and what you think the impacts of any losses of federal funding will be to your day-to-day ability to do the good work that you're doing. We all sort of are looking at it as this sort of abstract specter that's hanging over our shoulder. But if you tell us, literally, this is what will happen when or if, then it helps us. It helps really to inform our decision-making about Pennsylvania dollars. We certainly do not have the budget surplus or a rainy day fund that can make up for the large deficit if we lost federal funding in so many of those categories where we keep sort of hearing about it. We can't make that deficit up. But what we can do with your help, with your guidance, is direct and allocate our energies so that dollars go to the places where they will make the most impact. We can't fix everything with the limited funding we have, but we want to, with the limited funding we have, do it as effectively as possible, allocate it as effectively as possible so that we're making the most good impact with the few dollars we have. And I know that our governor is on board with that. Our governor understands the need for ensuring that Pennsylvanians don't suffer because we have chaos at the federal level. And I fully trust that Governor Shapiro will take whatever measures are necessary. We saw in December here in the Southeast when transit funding wasn't going through, our governor stepped up and said SEPTA and the people who use SEPTA every single day to get to doctor's appointments, to get to work, to care for loved ones, to care for someone in their home, we will ensure that those people can continue to ride public transportation. Our governor is someone who has stood up time and again to say Pennsylvanians deserve what Pennsylvanians have worked hard for. And these are Pennsylvania dollars. And I am really counting on him to ensure that with your voices and your stories, we allocate those dollars as effectively as possible. So what is the most important thing? You tell us. You tell us what is the most important thing. We work for you and we work for the people of Pennsylvania. So remind us what is most important so that we can best advocate for those needs.
Thank you so much. And then I know that your time was limited, so but my last question for you, unless anything else pops up in the chat, is that again, like we have folks that are coming to our advocacy day next week. Most of the folks on here are students or others who might have never had an interaction with their elected official prior to coming to our event next week. Do you have any, as one of those legislators that they might be meeting with, do you have any tips or advice?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you're the expert. When you come in the room, this is your field of study. This is where you have chosen to dedicate your energies, and this is your passion. You're the expert in the room. When you come in and tell us, these are the experiences I'm having. These are the experiences my patients are having. This is what I'm learning through my internship where I'm sort of a fly on the wall, but I'm seeing things happen in real time. We are, and I speak for many of the colleagues on, my side of the aisle, we are here to learn from you. I believe that sincerely. It is something I practice, and I know many of my colleagues do as well. Almost all of my colleagues, I will say, we are open to hearing your feedback. And so I am grateful that you're taking the time to do this. It's not an easy thing to take time out of your day, your life, your studies, your family, to come to Harrisburg, to walk around legislators' offices and tell them something that you think, gosh, don't they already see it? Don't they already know it? It's not an easy thing. And so I thank you. I applaud you. I challenge you to keep doing it, to keep raising your voice, because it is in that collective voice that we are able to finally hear enough what we need to be doing for you all. And so not just for you, for the members of our community, for the people that we represent every day, right? But you can be that voice. You can let us know for someone who is unable because they are in the throes of mental health crisis to pick up their phone and call their legislator. You can do it on their behalf. You're the expert in that room. Remember it when you come in. Tell me what it is that you think I could do to make Pennsylvania a better place for every single one of us that lives, works, has a family, wants to thrive here. You tell us. You're the expert in that room. Don't be intimidated. Don't be quiet. Please speak your truth. Tell us your stories. Do not back down. And carry your signs through the Capitol. If you have rally signs that say mental health matters, carry them through the Capitol so that people take notice and they say, boy, I just saw a big group of people walking through here with signs that say something about mental health. tell them why you're here, because that helps us too when we go, oh yeah, I just met with those folks. They are no joke. They are serious. They are dedicated. They are legit here to make a difference. So we're grateful to you. Thank you. And know that there are more people, that more legislators like myself who care and are grateful for you than who don't want to hear from you. There are more of us that want that information, that are desperate for it, so that we can advocate effectively.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Keep up the good work.
We will. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Can't wait.
All right. Ashleigh, I see you're still with us. Do you have any closing thoughts or anyway, you're also welcome to stay with us through the end.
Yeah, sure. I love hanging out with folks. I just, yeah, exactly what Senator Collett said. There's more folks out there. We have a lot of allies on our side, and even when it comes to calling or meeting with the legislators that haven't historically helped us in the past. We never know what somebody asked me yesterday at the rural trans town hall. What's the point? What's the point of me calling somebody who hasn't shown that they're going to support? First of all, it shows on their lists. The elected officials have to keep lists of who calls, and we can know whether or not they're listening to their constituents. But second of all, you live in that district, and what it is that is going to speak to them better than I will, or better than some lobbyist or anything. No offense to the lobbyists in the room, but more than anyone what might be the thing that they need to know in order to change their minds. And so that's why we encourage folks to continue reaching out.
All right, thank you. And that was great. That was great input as well. With our last 15 minutes, I know I had spoken with one of our legislative co-chairs, Kathy Yorkievitz, about filling in with some information background about mental health funding. Kathy, are you still with us?
I am here.
All right, awesome.
I'm here in two places. My audio is what you're seeing, but I'm here above in a little picture. So I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about NASW-PA's take on mental health funding for this year. We've chosen to focus in on county mental health funding. As I think, as Senator Collett explained, there's been a huge need here in that funding for this, the counties really administer the program, although much of the funding comes through Medicaid. But the county administration piece of it is pretty key. They do the base service unit, which is the entry point for people to get referred out to services. They also are responsible for community residential placements. They support the schools. They're the liaison with prisons, with the police, etc. They run the crisis services in general. So if you look at how funding has worked in Pennsylvania for county mental health, back in 2013-14, funding was cut. And since that time, funding has been pretty much flat, except for last year's Governor Shapiro did put $20 million into the new money into the budget. And again, this year he's proposing the same. But when you look at the need, that's a drop in the bucket. I live in Cumberland County, which is the fastest growing county in the Commonwealth. If you look at what's happening here, it's kind of probably a little bit extreme compared to other counties, but it's since COVID, there's been a 40% increase in encounters by, just coming into the base service unit, 105% increase in 302 petitions, a 295% increase in mobile responses, and police involvement in mental health issues has gone up 62%. Back a couple years, like last year, Cumberland and Perry counties combined had 80 people on their waiting list. Dauphin County is in similarly bad straits. They had 300 people on their waiting list last year. Um, so these are big gaps. So you have people on waiting lists. That's just, you really want to make sure you connect people as fast as possible. And some of the waiting list counties have reported are 6 months or longer. Another county, Snyder County, reported that they have, because they couldn't afford to pay enough, they have had a vacancy for a psychologist for over a year. So these are all really important things, and you probably are aware of stuff that's happening in your county. You know, clients that can't get services. You've had, you've had experiences that are really going to bring these kind of issues home. You can, I guess we at the state level could try to pull together data and to show the pictures, but your experiences on the ground really, really give color and meaning and human, the human side of it. It's a lot more compelling than numbers. Um, but you can also, get in touch with your county director, your county MHMR board, NAMI in your area. They have a lot of information too. And if you feel like you don't have the information you need to advocate, you can get it. But truly, your own experiences are really what you're bringing, and it really does make a difference. I worked in the legislature years ago, and that at a point in time when they were cutting people off welfare, and we had advocates that knew exactly who was going to be cut off welfare. They came in and spoke. They really made a huge impact on the legislators. They made some tweaks to the bill. They weren't perfect, but they did improve things, and it was because they heard directly from people working in the field that knew exactly who was going to get hurt. Another issue I just want to mention, and if there's hearing all this stuff going on federally, one of the biggest sources of funding from mental health services and substance abuse services right now is through Medicaid, and it's through what happened in the Affordable Care Act back during the way back 10, 15 years, 10 years ago. And that is that we were able to expand who was eligible for coverage to 138% of the poverty level. That brought in that created coverage for over the last 10 years. About 2.5 million people in Pennsylvania have been covered because of that. And a huge percentage of those newly covered people have used behavioral health services. So that the huge cuts that are being contemplated federally, that's probably going to land on those right there, among other places. But that's a huge threat hanging over funding for mental health and substance abuse services. So that's just a little bit of why we're worried about the federal cuts and why we think it's really important that we go beyond a $20 million increase for counties. And county commissioners have asked for $100 million this year. They'll be pushing that with their legislators, and we're going to be supporting that request to go beyond the 20 million that the governor has put forth. So I'm open to any questions. Anybody want to ask me anything or comment?
I know we'll keep an eye on the chat to see if there's any questions. But yeah, I appreciate that. And thank you for that wealth of information. That's significant. And I was particularly interested to hear about Cumberland County, where I also live, and was not fully aware of those statistics. Um, But I know like a lot of us we're talking about just something I want to emphasize, like because I think we've heard a lot today about sharing the stories and sharing the experience from out there in the field. And I keep kind of thinking about how some of you may be sitting in there going like, well, I don't have those experiences out in the field because I'm a student and I haven't been out in the practice yet. And I just want to emphasize that there's that those stories from the field aren't necessarily only those that we've seen like as practicing social workers. There's probably like experiences that you have, whether it be with like yourself, your colleagues, like your classmates, your family members, who have experienced these same things in one way or another, that would still be able to provide those like personal connections. And if you're truly like lacking of anything, then then you still don't necessarily need to share a story, but you can just kind of share your feelings based on what you've learned about like why it's important. um Kathy, do you have
Exactly.
it? Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, sometimes your family experiences are the most compelling. I mean, I had a cousin who was seriously mentally ill. Um, and our experience trying to get him insurance was impossible. And he ended up not having insurance, not getting care, and going down the rabbit hole, really seriously. I mean, I think many of us have personal things we can bring to the fore. And again, if you don't have an experience that relates to what you're talking about, you still have your beliefs and your feeling that we need to take care of people that need help. And that's, I think our legislators need to know that their constituents don't want us to forget about the people that need help. So that's enough to bring if you don't have any personal experience.
Sure. There's a question in the chat. Are we seeing that kind of increase in 302s across the Commonwealth?
I really don't know. I think in Cumberland County that there was a 51% increase in the approved 302. So I don't know. I don't know anything about other counties. I happen to have a sister who is a person recovering from schizophrenia. She's on the county board. So she tells me things. I get to look at
You
their
get
data.
inside
So
information.
yeah, I have inside information, um, but yeah, I think that would be good data for NASW to pull together you know, to, that's the kind of thing, as our national statewide organization, we have the resources to kind of go pull some of that data that we can give to you guys to use.
All right. They said no worries and thank you for at least, but still that's even just the one county as an example. As you said, we might be an outlier because we're the fastest growing county, but it's still probably not wholly wholly an outlier if we're seeing that level of increase. um all right. Well, unless there's any further questions from the audience, and we'll give like I'll give my regular wrap up spiel. So if there is further questions, there's times to oh great. How are one question just came in and asked how are we as speakers or other folks maintaining a positive attitude. I think you mean like during these difficult times and some of the challenges and cuts that we're seeing. Um, for myself, I know that I tend to like try to keep focus on what I have control over, and take care of my mental health as things go. Like if you need to shut off the news or is important to stay informed, and that's the balance that I'm always trying to keep, is like, what's the difference between staying informed and like being overly immersed in a way that's detrimental to my mental health. So that, but keeping an eye on what I have control over, what's in my locus of control. And I have more impact at the state level than I do at the federal level. And at the state level, we are actually in relatively good shape with having a governor that supports mental health and supports a lot of the issues that I'm passionate about. And a split legislature that means that a lot of the things that we might be seeing in other states aren't going to impact Pennsylvania in the same way. That being said, we're also very well aware of the fact that is a two-person change, because if the governor's race goes differently in 2026 and or the House switches hands again, that could very, very quickly shift. So it is more in my range to be able to have some of that control at the influence at the state level, but knowing that we have to stay vigilant there as well. And I appreciate those who are talking in the chat about ways that they're maintaining a positive attitude. Do any of our others, legislative chairs or lobbyists, or I see that, or Ashleigh, you're still with us. If any of you have ones to add about like how you're staying positive right now.
Sometimes if you're sticking with things that you can control, sometimes the only thing you can control is staying hydrated. Like sometimes you need to shrink that circle down an awful lot. Knowing that, once you rest and recuperate, you can stretch it out again. But I think it also requires a lot of trust that other people in other spheres are sort of doing the same thing. And so, build that trust or maintain that trust and let folks know that they can count on you for what you're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe don't sign up for that TAP class right now.
Or do, if that's what you like, if TAP is going to help you, if TAP is going to help you get through it. But yeah, and that's one thing I know about self-care, is that self-care has a rep of like being, okay, you're gonna take a bath with candles or whatever, but self-care means a lot of different things. It can mean getting connected with a therapist. It can mean actually setting and making sure that you're going to your medical appointments. It can mean shutting down from the news, or it could mean amping up your attention to the news based on your own personal needs. So it's important to stay aware of like yourself, to check in with yourself, to be like, how am I doing? What's helping me? What's hurting me right now? And kind of following that path for the sake of self-care. All right, we're at 11:59 right now, so I'm going to wrap us up. Thanks again to our speakers for joining us and for sharing your wealth of information. Ashleigh and Kathy, we really appreciate you for being with us. And just to sum up, again, we are doing this whole lead up to lead webinar series. Tomorrow will be more in depth about the SWEET bill and the need for support funding to support social work education. Thursday, we'll be talking more in depth about the social work compact bill and the efforts to get the interstate social work compact active in Pennsylvania. And then Friday will be talking more about like macro social work, ethics and advocacy, and how all of the things that we've been talking about so far over the week like connect back to the roots of the soul of our profession. So thank you again for joining us. We're gonna be recording every day. So if you do happen to miss one live, you'll be able to get connected with the video presentation afterwards. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.